Okay, testing 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. All right. Good morning. Those who are online, can you hear me? If you can you put something? Can you hear us? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, just bear with us. We're gonna wait a couple more minutes for other students to join us, and then we can kick off the orientation. Thank you. Are you guys okay? Like, right. Yeah, we might as well start. Yeah. Right. Perfect. Thank you so much. It's a challenge for me to all the way up. But good morning and welcome to the University of Regina. I would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that of Regina is situated on Treaty 4 lands with a presence in Treaty 6 to our faculties of nursing and social work. These are the traditional homelands of the Nehiyawak, Nishnapik, Lakota, and the homeland of the 1850 nations, and continue to be the shared territory of diverse peoples from near and far. We recognize that as an institution founded by settlers, we benefit from being on this land, and we are grateful for the privilege to learn, teach, and work here. It is our responsibility to strengthen relationships with Indigenous communities and build a more inclusive future. So I see here that we have some domestic students who are here with us, but also we have about half of our students or new students who are attending today's orientation are international. And I need to say a few words about what I just shared, the land acknowledgement. We often start important events at the University of Regina and in Canada in general with a land acknowledgement, like the one I just read, to honor the original peoples of this land and the nations who continue to work, live, and learn here. So the names of the nations that I've mentioned include, as I said, the Nehiyawak, Anishinaabeg, Lakota, Nakota, and the Métis Nation. So you may ask, why do we deliver this land acknowledgement? The reason is very simple. This is an opportunity for the university, for all of us actually, to acknowledge and address the legacies of the colonization of indigenous lands, you bear with me, I'm gonna pause here until our friends here join us. So, oh, that's
We
okay.
went to the Research and Innovation Center.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry. That's okay. On in. Sorry about this. That's okay. We're happy to see you. So. Fantastic. Excellent. Good. Excellent. So I was talking, for those who have just joined us, I was talking about the land acknowledgements that we usually start our important events with. And the land acknowledgement really refers to the fact that we acknowledge and address the legacies of colonization of indigenous lands. So for those who are, as I said before, international students, as you move through grad school, you will have numerous opportunities to learn about Canada's contemporary and historical relationship with indigenous peoples as part of your courses, but especially within FGSR as part of the GRST 800 and other events. So I just wanted to put that context for you. And also, this is part of our strong commitment to create an inclusive and welcoming space for all of you and for all those who chose the University of Regina as part of their education destination. So, as I said, and I'm aware that we have many who are new to the university. I see some continuing students, but we have many who are new to the university, new to Regina, new to Saskatchewan and Canada. And usually my colleagues here are aware of the quiz that I put, so please don't share the answers to anyone. I have few prizes here in addition to the door prizes. So I'm just gonna provide a quick quiz around Saskatchewan, the University of Regina, as well as the places we are here, the places that we are gathering on. So let me start about with Saskatchewan related question. What's the Saskatchewan model? Slogan or model? The official model. Model, slogan. But the official. I know. No. And I see you, Sask, so you have to be able. Okay. So, if you look at official communication from the government and so on and so forth, you're gonna see that the official model of the province is from many people's strength. And I'm not saying it's in Latin, but the reason why it starts with that slogan, you're gonna hear president, you're gonna hear other people talking about that slogan here for the province, but it's also it also signifies our commitment to building an inclusive province and also celebrates the indigenous and multicultural heritage of the people who live here. I'm gonna move to the University of Regina's model. So from the province now to the university. What's the University of Regina? Go far together. That's more a slogan, tagline, marketing. Still. Well, if you're gonna hear it every day also, but just for attending a thing. Right. Okay, the university's model is as one who serves. And you're gonna again encounter it in official communication, but also in events. And last but not least, I want to ask you, how many do you think, how many graduate students the University of Regina have? Approximately, not asking for the exact number. You said 4,000? Okay. That's too high. Just 2,000, 2,000 and a half, 1,000. You said 2,000? You said 2,000, so you're close. So each of you is going to grab one prize. So it's around 2,000. The numbers that I looked at today indicate we have just over 21 feet down. So, all right. As I was saying, this is really one of the most special days in the academic calendar in which we welcome new students, new graduate students, both domestic and international, to the university's campus. You may tell from my accent that I was a former international student. And as a former international graduate student, I can imagine how exciting and maybe intimidating sometimes this milestone is in Europe. But also, it's not just about the excitement, it's not just about in the intimidating nature of the experience. It's also about the optimism, hope, and that's kind of the hope in the future. Those are the feelings that I really remember about my orientation when I was a graduate student. And I see again the excitement, the hope here. So what I'm going to share with you shortly before I turn over or I turn the floor to my colleagues here from FGSR, just some really tips on how not to survive, but how to thrive in grad school. This is one of the most important decisions you have made in your life so far. It's gonna set you up for success, whether you're a graduate, international student, or a domestic student. So you may ask me, what is the key to thriving in grad school? So it's very simple. The key is to be actively participate in your classrooms, of course, in your research labs, but also in the events that we organize as grad faculty. Please take advantage of the many internet enriching professional development opportunities that my colleagues here, our team organizes. Be open to the free and open exchange of ideas. This is the experience that we get from grad school. You can challenge your thoughts and your colleagues' ideas, and we'd like to be challenged as professors, right? So that's kind of really the purpose of the university, but also a chance to develop new collaborations with mentors, fellow graduate students, and your class. Well, so in closing, what I'm going to do is just leave you with three things that it took me a long time to come up with, and I'd like to share them on a regular basis with new graduate students. When you think about your journey here all the time, please remember that you have been admitted and accepted into the program because you belong here. So remember, you are a highly valued member of the University of Regina community. Grad school sometimes is isolated, whether you're working on a research project or doing a co-op or what have you, might be an isolated experience. So I want you to remember that you belong here but also, and this is the second point, that thoughts a growth mindset. What does that mean? It's really here learn how to learn from feedback that others will give you. And finally, as I said, remember that you are not alone. If you need anything, we have a fantastic team within the Faculty of Grad Studies. My colleagues here will be happy. I will be happy to help you. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Do not be intimidated. Just reach out to us. I go by on a first name basis. I forgot to introduce myself, so Aziz, just call me Aziz. You don't have to call me Dean Dewey or Dr. Dewey or anything. Just reach out to me, and I will be really very happy to help address any questions that you have. So that's in a nutshell my remarks. So just remember those three things, like the feeling of belonging, you're really belong here, and the growth mindset, and the fact that we have a heart dedicated to supporting you throughout this journey. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our amazing team, and we'll actually, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no.
Well, hi, I'm Christine, and I'm one of the associate deans, and my area is academic and student experience. Pardon me, I'm just getting now over a cold. Really pleased to have you joining us here at the University of Regina. I'll just talk a little bit about FGSR. So we handle a lot of your experience from initial admission to graduation. And we have our admissions team who you've already probably had contact with, and our registration team who kind of keeps tabs on everyone, makes sure they're registering for their courses and helps you with registration errors and so forth. Our scholarship and awards team, you'll hear from the manager shortly, thesis defense and graduation. We also offer a bunch of professional development opportunities and social experiences and so forth, which other members of our team will be discussing later in the presentation. And overall, we just want to ensure that you have a successful experience. So yeah, whatever questions you have, we're here for you. And I'll just kind of explain the relationship between FGSR and your home unit. So you are a student of the FGSR, but you are hosted within a department or unit or faculty, such as the Faculty of Education, Johnson Shoyama Graduate School of Public Policy, La Cité, might be like one of the departments in Faculty of Science, Biology, Computer Science, Chemistry, etc. Visual art might be an area within MAP, for example, visual arts, or engineering. Those are just some examples. So there are issues that you will exclusively go to your unit or faculty first. Most issues can be resolved at that level, either talking to your supervisor or graduate coordinator, or if they have a graduate admin support or graduate advisor in your home unit, you can talk to them and see if your issue can be resolved. Sometimes the associate dean research of that faculty might be the person you talk to. And then turn to FGSR if you still need help, to Chris and I, the associate deans, or to Aziz, the dean. And people will guide you as to who you should talk to. We're always happy to hear from you, and we can direct you to the correct person to talk to if you're not sure. Um, and so some of you have probably met me online already because I oversee the GRST or Grad Thrive Plus course. And so look forward to seeing you complete that very soon. And so if you've gone in, there's 3 modules. The first is academic integrity. The second is respectful, inclusive, and healthy university. And then the last is kind of a course within a course, 4 seasons of reconciliation. So it is mandatory to complete this in the first semester of the program. And it is entirely online. It doesn't take very long. I highly recommend you dive in this week, get it done, because well, there's always a handful of students at the end of semester that haven't finished it and find there's a registration hold on them until they complete. And so it does only take 6 to 10 hours, depending on how familiar you are with the topic. If you've already taken 4 seasons of reconciliation in the last 5 years, you can just upload the certificate. You don't have to do it again. But I will say the academic integrity information is really helpful, even if it's a review for you. It gives you a sense for the expectations in Canada, if you're new to the country, in terms of academic integrity, as well as just to the university graduate expectations for academic integrity. So that will benefit you. Even if it's a review, it'll benefit you a lot. And you can go further if you want. There's links to other resources and practice and so forth. So, and then the second section is a really good introduction also to some of the resources that we have here on campus. So, yeah, so it's just credit, non-credit, and yeah, hope to see you taking that soon. And you can message me if you have any questions about that. Our office is very difficult to find. If you haven't checked it out, that might be something you want to walk around and try and find it. I always tell people to look for the fitness. It's a fitness center in the kinesiology building, because we're kind of just opposite that, but it's on floor 2A, room 227. And our helpful admin staff are happy to see you there with any questions you might have. So do stop by if you're having any issues. Yeah, love to see you there. Okay, I'll pass it over to Chris.
Thank you, Christine. So my name is Chris Oriot. I'm the other Associate Dean in the Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research. My role is complementary to Christine's. We do a lot of the same things. She handles a little bit more of the student engagement side of things, and I handle maybe a little bit more of the things like academic integrity and so on. So there are a couple things that I just want to share with you, a couple of what I call my key messages that I think will be useful pieces of information for all new students, new graduate students to have. I do recognize some of you are returning students, but as graduate students, there are a lot of rules in graduate school that just didn't apply to undergrad. So, undergrad, you just take whatever courses you want, take as many courses as you want. I guess you can take up to 5 in a semester and so on. In grad school, every single thing you do, just about, you need permission to do. So if you want to make any kind of change to your program, anything at all, you need to get approval to do that. So, there's just a lot of rules, and that's why I want to go over this with you. So. Oh, I do that. I'm sorry. I thought you had the remote. Okay, so the first thing is, please do check to make sure that you're registered in the correct number of credit hours. This differs depending on whether you're a domestic or international student and whether you're a master's or a PhD student. let's start with the easy one. If you're a PhD student, it's very straightforward. You have to register in a minimum of 6 credit hours every single semester of your PhD program, full stop, no exceptions. Doesn't matter if you're international or domestic. For master students, it's much more complicated. So if you are a international master student, then in the fall and winter semesters, you have to be registered in a minimum of 6 credit hours. But in the spring, summer, you can drop down to 3 credit hours minimum. Okay. And that's to give you an opportunity to work or to take a little bit of a break, ease up a little bit. A lot of the classes in the spring, summer are over a shorter time frame. They're just over, the first month of the term or whatever else. So, that's in the case that you are an international student. If you are a domestic master's student, you only have to register once every 3 terms, and you only have to register in a minimum of 3 credit hours when you do. Okay, so what I mean by that is that you're here now, you're in this semester, you have to take at least 1 course, right? 3 credit hours right now for winter. You wouldn't actually have to register again until next winter. And when you do, you have to do so for a minimum of 3 credit hours. Okay, that is only the case for domestic master students. International students, sorry, you got to register for 6 credit hours for both fall and winter, or a minimum of 3 in spring, summer. That's not us, that's IRCC. Okay. All right. Sometimes bad things happen, and you have some options when bad things happen. So one thing, if you find yourself in a class and you're struggling with, your health or some circumstances that have come up that have made it very difficult for you to complete your assignments, talk to your instructors. Most instructors are pretty understanding, especially when it comes to graduate students who have so many demands. So many of you have jobs or kids, family responsibilities, and they get it too. Okay, so it's well worth having a conversation with your instructor just to say, here's what's going on, and can I have more time? Okay, in the case that you need to defer something like a final term paper or a final exam, you may have to ask for more time into the next semester, in which case you'll need what we call a deferral. Okay, so you can request a deferral by speaking to your instructor and saying, hey, I don't think I'm going to get this done. Here's why. You're going to be asked to provide documentation of the circumstances, but that's an option for you. And it will give you until either the last day of the first month in the new term or the last day of the semester, depending on the circumstance. Okay, so you'll get more time in the next semester to finish the work. Okay, if things are really bad, you can ask for a leave of absence. All right. So a leave of absence, this is available for both domestic and international students. Okay, international students are sometimes under the impression that they don't qualify for leaves of absence. That's not true, but you have to have a bona fide reason for one, and you will be required to provide documentation if you need a leave of absence. And what a leave of absence gets you is you do not have to register in the term in which you have been given a leave of absence. Okay, so let's say, something is really, things are really not working out well for you in, let's say, November or December, and you tough it out for that term, but you need a break the following term. That's when you can ask for a leave of absence for the winter semester, and you won't have to register for that term. For domestic students, you can take up to a year. Okay, for international students, you get up to 150 days. Again, that's IRCC, not us. Okay. If things are really not going well, you can withdraw from your course. Okay. But if you're an international student, I want you to be aware that if you withdraw from a course, you'll end up with a grade of W on your transcript. Everyone here at the university knows that means you just changed your mind and left the course. No big deal. Okay. IRCC may see it differently. So when IRCC sees a grade of W, they will interpret that as you weren't registered that term, or they may interpret that way. It just depends who you get. Okay, and we have no control over that. So we always want to be very cautious when we're dealing with withdrawals for international students, that they fully understand that if that's seen as you not being registered, that might be seen as you not being compliant with the terms of your study permit. That may make it more difficult for you to get a future study permit or to get a postgraduate work permit. We don't want any hassles with IRCC or you. So before you withdraw from a course, please make sure you talk to us in FGSR so that we can make sure that's the best option and the only option available for you. And finally, if things are really not going well, you can withdraw from your program. If that happens, you'll need to also withdraw from your classes. Okay, those are 2 different decisions, right? To withdraw from the program, withdraw from the classes. And I will say that if your circumstances change in the future, you can apply for reinstatement. It's not guaranteed, but in most cases, when students are ready to come back, they can resume their studies at a later time. Okay. All right. Sorry. Got too many computers on the go. Okay, so there's some strange things. Like I said, grad school has a lot of rules, right? And so one of the really strange rules we have is that to be able to earn credit for a course, you have to get a minimum of 70% in it if it's a numerically graded course. Okay, that is true even if the course is an undergraduate course. So you as a graduate student taking an undergraduate course have to get 70 in that class in order to get credit for it. Otherwise, you failed the class. Okay. That's you might think like, well, that's weird because all the other students in the class who are undergraduates only have to get 50. And that's true. But for you as a graduate student, it's 70, 70, 70, always 70. Okay. If the course is a 0 credit hour seminar, and if for those of you who are in science, engineering, even in arts, okay, most of those programs have a 0 credit hour seminar attached to them. LACIT does as well. Okay, you have to do it still. Even though it's 0 credit hours, it's not optional. It just means you have to pay for it. Okay, there's no tuition charge for it, but you still have to do it. Okay, it's still required. And as I mentioned previously, if you do withdraw from the university altogether, you'll have to withdraw from your courses. Now, this is really important. You can't fail stuff in grad school, or at least you can't fail very often. Okay. If you fail a course in graduate school, whether it was a course that was required for your program or not, if it's something you took for fun, just out of interest, if you took an elective, if it doesn't matter why you took the class. As soon as you receive a failing grade in the class, you'll be put on academic probation. Okay. If you receive a second failing grade in any course or any component in anything at all, any second failing grade, you'll be required to discontinue from your program. Okay. So it doesn't matter why. I'll often have students in this situation who'll say, well, yeah, but that was just an undergraduate course I took for fun. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it was. Okay. Even if it's a seminar with 0 credit hours attached to it, you cannot fail anything. Okay. If you do, you'll be required to discontinue after the second failure in most cases. Okay. All right. As was mentioned previously by Christine, you have help within your academic unit as well as from us in FGSR. I think it can get really confusing sometimes to know who you're supposed to talk to when you have an issue. The way I like to think about it is if you think your issue is specific to students in your program, talk to somebody in your area. One of these folks on the slide here. Okay. If you're in an area without departments. Otherwise, you have to look a little bit closer at the departments. There's a list on our website that will show you who those people are. Okay. And if you have an issue that you think would affect all graduate students, that's when we would deal with it in FGSR. Okay, so you just think like, is this something that's like a university-wide, all graduate students are experiencing this or could experience this? Or is this specific to the fact that I'm in engineering? This is specific to LACIT students. This is specific to kinesiology students and so on. Okay. If you're ever in doubt, I would start with the person who is listed on the slide here, if you're in one of these programs, or with your graduate program coordinator. And if you don't know who that is, that's okay. Just come to us and we'll sort it out. Okay. We'll help you figure out who the right person is. Finally, I want to say a note about academic integrity. As I mentioned, one of my key responsibilities here at the university is maintaining academic integrity in our work. And I have this little slide up here as just a reminder that in graduate school, we don't copy and paste from other sources. We don't copy and paste from the output of ChatGPT or other AI applications and so on. We do our own original work. And I know sometimes, especially nowadays, with all the writing assistance tools that are available to us, things like Grammarly and all these other applications, it can get very confusing. And that's why we have a whole separate academic integrity workshop right after this that I'll be hosting. And if you want to stick around for that, if you want a refresher on academic integrity, or if you're new to the University of Regina and you're not quite sure what our rules and regulations are and you want to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble, you probably find it helpful to stick around for that. Okay. All right. I'm going to pass this on now to who was talking about thesis defense stuff. Shall it be me? It will be me. That's okay. Oh. Wow. You have the most amazing timing, Tanya. So this is the wonderful Tanya Gates, who is from our thesis and defense team. And I'm just going to turn over to her to tell you what she does when she's not wandering the halls.
Yeah. You guys are really going to have a lot of faith in me now. Wow, she knows what she's doing. Okay. So, for a lot of you, it'll be your first day here as a grad student or pretty close to it. And you might be thinking, why do I need to think about my thesis? That is like 2 years away or whatever. The main reason that I want you to think about this is that our department, my office actually exists. So that's the main reason why I'm here, is to let you know that the university does have quite a number of supports from resources at the library to help you with the content of your thesis to the resources that our office offers, which will help you with the formatting, templating, and sort of organization of your thesis. We also offer a number of, we have a graduate writing group and that we meets virtually each week. And we also have, well, each week, it starts the second week of the term and goes to the last week before final exams start. And they're on Thursdays. They're called Thesis Thursdays. And we also have in the afternoons on those Thursdays virtual presentations about various aspects of thesis writing, everything from literature review to well, the whole gamut. It runs the whole gamut. So the main points are my department exists. Sorry, I don't know how to forward this. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so seminars and workshops on submission and defense. There is also a semi-annual event, thesis jumpstart. I don't know that the next one has been scheduled yet. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm glad I asked because the timing of them has changed. And there is a QR code there for linking. You guys are distributing the slide deck to attendees? Okay, great. And the last bit is, unlike a lot of universities, graduation at the U of R is not automatic. This is very odd. You have to actually apply for graduation. It's not enough to just finish the components of your program. You actually have to let us know that you want to apply to graduate. It's terribly archaic, but there you are. It's a requirement. So if you're finishing your program by the end of August in whatever year, then you would be applying for fall convocation. So the application deadline is actually before you would meet your requirements on July 31st. And if you are meeting your requirements in by the fall of a certain year, like by the end of December, then you would be applying for spring convocation. The application deadline for which would be in January, logically after you're done. So just be aware of those dates. Again, you have any questions or concerns about thesis, defense, submission, graduation, convocation, you can email me at grad.defense@uregina.ca, and either myself or Ray will answer your questions. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna hold this because I tend to move around. So my name is Emily Kosick and I am the manager of graduate scholarships and awards. Graduate scholarships and awards are their own thing. We are separate from undergrad. So you will need to know us if you'd like some money. All right, so generally speaking, FGSR, we manage about just over $8.5 million in funding each year, supporting more than 1,300 students. So a little over half of graduate students are getting funding. So it kind of comes in layers. There's a direct funding component. These are the funding that FGSR itself makes the decisions for. That is most of the entrance awards for students coming in, as well as the International Doctoral Student Award. Do I have any PhDs in the room? Anyone starting their PhD today? Perfect, wonderful. If you're an international student, in order to offset the international tuition charge, we have the International Doctoral Student Award. It does require that you maintain eligibility criteria, but you will get it for sure in your first semester, and after that, we will evaluate you. You do not have to apply for it. It is done automatically. We pull the information. Next layer of funding that we have is funding that is provided by FGSR, i.e. it is our money, but we work with the faculties to determine which students are going to get that funding. And that comes in the form of the thesis-only scholarship, graduate student base funds, which usually come out as the University of Regina Graduate Studies Award, a graduate teaching assistantship, so GTAs, and then what is called the Guaranteed Minimum Funding Award, so GMF. That is only for PhD students currently. So again, my lovely PhD students, if you are coming to the University of Regina now, you now fall under the policy that requires that you have guaranteed minimum funding. Most students are getting that through a combination of funding from FGSR and your host faculty. Some students are getting it strictly from the host faculty, but there are very few that are doing that way. Some are doing it through external funding as well. But basically, the long and short of it is, starting last semester, we became a university that does not allow their PhD students to not have funding. You must have funding as a PhD student from the source in order to be accepted here. One thing I will say, Chris was talking about registration. When you're a PhD student and you're registering, I'm just going to make this note for you. Just because you have a balance on your account doesn't mean you are registered. Because PhD students and MPP students, if there's any of you here, because you're required to be registered in 6 credit hours, there's a weird back-end tuition thing that we do where we put your tuition on, whether you're registered or not, just to make sure that you're paying the flat rate. But you do need to still make sure that you register for classes. Because having money in your account does not mean you're registered if you're an MPP student or a PhD student. So I just want to throw that out there because the registration team and myself run into this a lot. Where we're like, okay, we call it GRST 998 is how we see it, but it really is just a note to the computer to put money on your account. It's not a registration. So always make sure you're registered. Next level of funding is donor funded awards. So these are funding opportunities that have been provided to us by generous donors to the University of Regina. They're often named scholarships, and they are all awarded through our Graduate Awards Portal or GAP system. We have 3 competitions each year, one in February, one in May, and one in September. So the first one you guys will be eligible for is the one in February. Each competition has different awards, 50 awards or so each competition. And so we encourage you to apply for awards when it comes up in February. We do have lovely sessions, nice information sessions, which you can find on our website that will tell you how to apply for things in GAP. So if you want to learn about how to use GAP, how to apply for things in GAP, that's super important. The last thing that we do manage are external awards. So these are awards that are external to the university. They're often national awards or provincial awards. I will say there are some limitations on international students for these types of awards. A number of them are only for domestic students, but that information is again available on our website. We have, if you go to the Graduate Studies website /scholarships, we have a wonderful database that will list every opportunity of scholarships that we have found, some that we maintain ourselves through the GAP system, some that are external that we encourage you to apply for. We can help you apply for it. But it's a really great tool to be able to use. So some things to point out. Don't miss out on funding by accident. So Christine mentioned Grad Thrive Plus, which is GRST 801, needs to be taken in your first semester. It's important to take it in your first semester because if you don't, you are no longer eligible for most of FGSR scholarship opportunities. So not only will you get a registration hold, which sucks, but you will be blocked from money, which sucks more. So make sure that you finish that class. It's really easy. Doesn't take that long. Finish it this week. Get it out of the way. And you won't have to worry about it. If you've been offered a graduate teaching assistantship, sadly, you have another class to take. It is called GRST 800AB or GTech. So it's a graduate teaching enhancement course. If you don't take it, then you can't have any more GTAs. Again, we're just trying to encourage you to learn things before we give you money. And another key component for most funding at University of Regina is a GPA of at least an 80% is required for most of our funding opportunities. So that is the benchmark that you would have to maintain and have for most of the funding opportunities, specifically for FGSR funding, but also for a lot of the donor funding as well. All right, so just a little bit more about the Graduate Teaching Enhancement course. It is taught by Dr. Salem at the Center for Teaching and Learning. It's designed to prepare you to be a graduate teaching assistant. I know some of you have probably been teaching assistants before, maybe at other universities, but this is to teach you the U of R way of doing things and to give you new tools and stuff. It'll also start to teach you about what it's going to be like if you want to be a professor in the future. So there's lots of really great information there. So any student that has their first GTA will automatically be registered. But if you want to take it in advance, the session up there, the upcoming course on October 16th. Oh, sorry. What is it? You did not update. I was like, wait a second, October. Sorry. There is one in February. It is February 10th from 9 to 12 as well. And 2026, of course. So you can just find it in URL self-service. So if you just go into your self-service and you go into registration and you search GRST 800AB under the grad student options, it'll be there. It's section 002. You can register yourself. If you do have a GTA, we will register you in a different section on a different day. All right. So just remember, please, that we are here to help. So 2 statements that as a graduate student myself, I wish I'd remembered more is you can say, I don't know. That's okay. And you can say, I need help. So if you need help with funding, grad funding at uregina.ca, we are happy to help you. If you don't know about funding, we're also happy to help you. Just reach out. We do host a whole bunch of how to apply sessions for all the large major awards. We host how to apply sessions because they're not easy. We host gap sessions as well, so you can learn to learn how to apply for things in gap. So we are here. We want to help. We want to get you money. So like I said, 80% GPA and finish your grad Thrive Plus. All right. Student experience. Sorry about that. I did update the slides. I'm not sure what happened there. It's going to be a Monday morning, right? So before we get started, my name is Wendy Forsberg. I'm the Student Experience Coordinator, which means I'm in charge of fun stuff. So we're going to do the door prize right now. So Ashley is going to draw a number. So get out your little yellow tickets. Okay, so we're going to do the last 3 numbers on it. 482. Great. You're on the. Yeah. All right. And our next winner is 463. Oh yeah, there was 2 prizes. Okay, perfect. Okay, like I said, I'm Wendy Forsberg, the Student Experience Coordinator, and my role is to help you stay connected with grad students, with FGSR, with the events and what's happening on campus, any workshops you might have. So one way I do that is to help you stay informed through the Grad Digest. Now, this morning at 9 o'clock, the Grad Digest would have come to your URegina email. We use your URegina email because that's your official email. And then it has all the information of what's happening in January. So events, stuff that Emily talked about, stuff Tanya talked about, everything is in there, as well as any workshops that I'm hosting or events that are happening. So it goes out on the first business day of the month, but we always send it out on orientation day. And then in the middle of the month, we do a mid-month email update that has you anything that's come up or any external opportunities that are not in the Grad Digest. So that might be a job posting, it might be external funding, it might be other things like that. So just keep an eye on the Grad Digest and that email. Oh yeah. I have totally saved the wrong version of the slides here. All right, so for student success, we offer a variety of workshops, events, and supports. So we have Coffee with the Dean coming up. It is on Tuesday, January 20th at 2:30 in CK 226, which is the boardroom right outside the FGSR office. So right by the fitness gym, just go down that hallway. The Coffee with the Dean is designed to have a casual conversation with Aziz and Christine and Chris if they're available. And we talk about what is happening
what's going on, anything you're experiencing, any concerns you might have. This is a great opportunity to get people that need to know what's happening in the know, and also to meet some of your fellow students. And we always provide coffee and snacks. So make sure you come for that. Grad night is always the first Wednesday of the month from 4 to 6 p.m. It's come and go, so you don't have to come for the whole time. If you have a class that starts at 5:30, come 4, that kind of thing. It is always at Trifons, which is in the lab cafe, which is in the lab building, kind of right across campus from where we are right now. We provide free nachos and a beverage for when you come. So you just come, you can hang out with other grad students, chat. Sometimes Gate comes and talks about some of the things they have that they want to talk to you about that might be coming up and try to promote. But mostly it's just an activity to meet other students that are in grad studies. We also each term have an information session on how to improve your student-supervisor relationship. So it might be a workshop, it might be a panel discussion. We haven't set the date for this one yet. So it's just a way to kind of figure out how to negotiate and have that relationship with your supervisor and what to do if you have a problem with your supervisor. There's also writing tutors available through the Student Success Center, which is through UR-Path online through Cecil, which is the Center for Experiential Learning on campus. And then we offer a variety of other workshops. If in the digest you see something that you like, or you think that they're missing something, you can easily reach out to me at grad.engagement@URegina and let me know if there's something you think we should be offering. So we also have the FGSR events listing. You want to scan that, that'll take you to our events page. This is what January looked like when I created the slide. I've added the Thesis Thursday information on it this morning. So this is our events page. It gets updated anytime something new happens, anytime Gate offers anything, anytime funding has a how to apply session. Anything that we're doing kind of ends up on this calendar. So it's kind of a good one source for everything that's sort of happening. Did everybody get it scanned? The other web page I want to direct you to is the UR Grad Experience, and this is the code for that. This is a great place to bookmark. From here, you can get to many of our other pages. It will lead you to our bigger programs, our signature events like 3MT that I'll be talking about in a second. It takes you to Gate. It takes you to any other kind of programming we have that is larger. It takes you to events. It takes you to the student groups. And at the very bottom is a whole list of resources for like frequently asked questions. So that is a great page for anything kind of that's happening or kind of big important information. New this term, we are offering a digital badge for research communications. Lots of our programs are for thesis-based students and learning how to talk about your research to funders, to other people in your class, to other people in the university community, and to externals so that you can talk about what super complicated thing you're doing in a language that everybody can understand, myself included. So we want to make sure that people understand what you're talking about. So the idea behind the research communications is to build confidence in communicating your research, providing clearer professional visuals, and translating a complex idea into something that's accessible to the general public, basically. And there are quite a few ways that you can participate and get the digital badge. So you can participate in the Summer Research Institute, which runs over the spring-summer session. We offer a variety of workshops. And then at the end, there's like a finale where you can do a poster and a 3-minute presentation, and then you get judged for feedback. So it's kind of like an introductory to learning how to communicate about your research. Then in the fall, we host a research week, which is usually the end of October, where there's a week of events. We host the Student Research Showcase, which is on the Wednesday, where students can submit a poster or do a presentation. And there are cash prizes for that, of course. Everything we do has cash prizes to help you out. And what we are doing for Research Week is we work with Atrium, and everybody has posters, and people from across campus will come and check it out. And it gives you an opportunity to practice talking about your posters. Posters are great for at a conference or if you want to do a presentation. So it's just more practice on getting used to talking about your research. And then in the winter term, which is this term, we host the 3-minute thesis competition. Now, this is an international competition that started in Queensland University. And it is talking about your thesis in 3 minutes with one slide, which is a lot more complicated than you would think, I would think. And so we've had that competition that goes on. It starts in January. We have an info session on the 16th if you're interested. Last year's winner was a first-year student, so don't let that scare you. There's also a variety of workshops that we're hosting prior to the heat, where we have the semifinals, so that you can participate. So that's kind of the idea behind the badge, is that you take the workshops. You don't have to take them all. There's so many you need to take, and then you present at the heat for the 3M team. So that gives you a variety of ways to learn how to communicate well about your research. So like I said, we have this term, the 3MT, the 3-minute competition. It runs from January to March. The info session is in January on the 16th. The heats fall in February. And between that, we're hosting 5 or 6 workshops on presentation, building your slides, talking about your stuff, having stage presence, and all those kind of things that you need to keep an audience entranced on what you're talking about. Last year's winner, 2024's winner, Michael Mensa, went all the way to North Americans. So that means he won Canadian nationals and went on to North Americans in St. Louis. Of course, there's cash prize money along every route for that. And last year's winners are on there, with Bailey that was in the middle. She went on to go to Western in Victoria, and she won the People's Choice there. And that was our first year in social work. So that was pretty good for her. And just so you are aware, I know I told you January 16th is the info session if you're interested. Just gonna flip to my note here. So even if you're not planning to compete, it's fine. If you want to still take the workshops and practice at the heats and get judges feedback at the heats, so you can know how to improve your slide and your presentation. Even if you don't want to do any of that part, and you don't want the digital badge, you don't want to take any of the workshops, which is all fine, on March 20th at Dark Hall, that is where we have our finale for 3MT. So the 8 finalists will be there. Dark Hall is on the College Avenue campus, which is kind of downtown. It's in a historic building that's been recently renovated. It's a wonderful experience. You get to see the 8 finalists. We have a little fun stuff in the middle where some of the previous finalists talk. We also bring in the Shirk winner from the storytelling competition and some other people to present. So it's a great opportunity to hear about lots of the research that is happening on campus by fellow students. And like I said, and everyone else has said, we're all here to help you. So if there's something that you need help with, whether it's a part of your thesis that you're working on, and we can get Tanya to run a workshop, or our thesis jumpstart, where Christine Huns holds a writing retreat to help you work on your proposal. So it doesn't just have to be your thesis, it can be your proposal or any part, class assignment, anything that you're working on for a final project. If there's an event you want us to hold, a workshop, or any other idea of ways that we can make a better community for you, please let me know. My email again is gradengagement@uregina.ca. And like I had mentioned, there are some student groups. There are 3 student groups. We have Inspire, and then we have BIPOC, and then we have the university's Grad Students Association. So I'm going to get Kaylee to come up and talk about Inspire, and then I will talk about the other 2 because I don't think I'm in those 2 groups.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm a member of the student group Inspire. So Inspire stands for the Interdisciplinary Series for Professional, Intellectual, and Research Engagement. So Inspire is a group that is led by graduate students here at the University of Regina. And we put on events and we host workshops to try and help enhance the student success here at the University of Regina and to promote professional and academic domains. So when Inspire was founded, it was founded by 2 members of the psychology department. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here today, so I am instead. But when they started their university journey at the master's level, they found that they didn't really have an opportunity to interact with anyone outside of the psychology department. They were very focused within their own little domain, and they never really knew what was going on outside of it. And so they created Inspire to try and help bridge those interdisciplinary connections and connect students across the university in all different graduate departments so that we have an idea of what's going on in other departments and we can help promote each other's research. So in the winter term here in 2026, we're going to be hosting 2 different events. The first event we're hosting is the CV workshop. That's going to be later this month. There is information on it on the grad digest that Wendy sent out today. The second event that we're hosting this semester is our largest event. We're hosting our 3rd annual research symposium. So the research symposium creates a space for knowledge sharing and dissemination of research among students across disciplines. We have 3 different formats that you can present your research as. You can do a poster. You can also do what we call a data blitz, which is a short 5-minute talk, or a 10-minute talk about your research. So we have those 3 different portions. And what our goal is with this symposium is to try and create an environment where everyone can showcase their research in a format that is similar to an academic conference, something you might be interested in attending, but the environment is a little bit lower stakes. So we don't have formal judging. Everything is a People's Choice Awards. We do have cash prizes, but you will be just judged by your peers and whoever is in attendance. There's no actual formal judging that way. Everything is a bit lower stakes and it can be a nice little practice round for if you decide to go to an academic conference later on. If you'd like more information about Inspire, we have a website. It's inspireUofR.com. We also have an email. It's just inspire@uofr.ca. So if you're interested in joining our group or learning more about our events, head over to the website or send us an email and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. So as you see, I don't have the. It's one of those things. So the other student group, I don't think anyone is here from them, is the BIPOC Grad Students Association, which stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Grad Students Association. And they host a variety of events throughout the term. If you saw the grad digest, they're having a mix and mingle event coming up soon in the month of January. So that was in the grad digest. And most of their activities are fun things to do. Like in the fall, they host a potluck. Sometimes they go bowling, and it's just a design to have everybody be able to meet people who might be from their own country that they haven't met yet, or other people who have the same experiences that you're having as an international student too, that they will understand kind of where you've been at. They're also a great resource for if you're having a problem, right? To start kind of there, if that's a kind of an inclusion thing. So what they're designed for is to kind of promote support and inclusion on the campus for our grad students. And if you wanted more information or to contact them directly, it's grad.bipoc@uregina.ca. Come out for the mix and mingle. It's in our boardroom as well that day. And it's also come and go. So you don't have to feel, that you have to have the whole Windows time slot. And they are going to feed you lunch. So that's always important too. The other big group that is for the grad students is the University of Regina Grad Students Association. It is kind of like our version of the Students' Union, but for grad students. They provide some support. They have funding opportunities, some of which run through Emily's office. Some are for travel if you're going to a conference. They also have some other funding opportunities. So if you want to visit their website too, they have their own. They also host some student mixers. They also partner with us on having like pizza lunches and that kind of thing. So you can meet them there too. And so now I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, who's been very great at helping me today with everybody, meeting and greeting. And she will talk about GATE.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm a little bit high energy, so hopefully this kind of gets you up and awake and you're ready to hear some fun information. We're almost done. So I promise that I think after me, I'm the last one. So GATE, you've probably heard it a little bit throughout today's talk, but Graduate Advanced Training and Entrepreneurship, we're underneath the Faculty of Grad Studies. It's available to all graduate students, and the entrepreneurship side is available to all students actually on campus, which is really exciting. I think we've been around for about a year and a half, so very exciting, but we have some really cool offerings. And basically what it kind of helps you with and helps understand is we work a lot with like some of the student groups that we just heard from, but we're trying to really build your confidence and soft skills. So getting you ready for your new role as your career readiness or professional development. And then also the introductory and exploratory understanding of entrepreneurship. So what that means is some of your research you might be able to build into a business. So that's kind of what we work on. We do try and collaborate between different departments. So similar to what Inspire was saying, and Kaylee had mentioned it, is that we want to make sure that you don't just say siloed in psychology. We want to make sure that you're kind of like know somebody from engineering and then know somebody from business and know somebody from social work to kind of build your ideas and really like gain some knowledge from different areas. Okay, so some of our programs. So career and professional development is kind of like my little like box or little wheelhouse that I try and push forward. So upcoming events that we have happening for the winter semester. So we have Careers Week. So Careers Week, we partner with the Center of Experiential Service Learning, and we just offer you some online easy workshops that helps build your skills to get you ready for the career fair that's happening in February. So these are just kind of like drop in, learn some skills that you might not know about how to network and how to build your resume and some of those pieces to get you feeling confident so that you can go and have really great conversations with employers at the career fair. We have some lunch and learns coming up. We also have the reverse career fair, which last semester and the semester before was one of our most popular events. So you get one-on-one time with employers in your actual field. So that's really exciting for you. We have a very high hiring rate. So it's one of the best at any of the university events. So that's something that we're super proud of. And then we also have coming up at the end of the semester, it'll be at the end of March, is the President Keshen event. So we actually bring in the president and then he goes and shoulder taps all of his like super important CEO friends. And we get to do a panel discussion with all of them. So we get to learn from them on kind of some of their tips and tricks and understanding what they're looking for in employees. So those are some of our professional development courses or workshops, that we host. And then okay, so my partner in crime, she's not here today, but Hannah Tate, she kind of helps run the innovation and entrepreneurship side of things, which is really exciting. So today at lunchtime from 12 to 12:30, if you're interested, please come speak to me, but we have an information session about our startup bootcamp. And so it's 3 days of learning about the basics and an introductory piece of how to build a business and kind of looking at different research topics and trying to find colleagues that are interested in building a business with you. We have so last year we had over 35 students participate. Hello, welcome. We had over 30 some students participate and we gave away $10,000 in cash prizes. So if you're interested in that, we have an information session happening today, and I can provide you more details about that, which is really exciting. And then the deadline to register is January 12th, and the first event is at the end of January. We also have the Innovation Challenge. So this isn't something that we've normally ran before. This is going to be like our first crack at it. We're very excited. So we're partnering with the Hill School of Business to host an innovation challenge. It's going to be more based around social innovation. And then we also have an event coming up in March, and it's the Alumni Exchange. So we're going to be bringing in local businesses to network with you all as local entrepreneurs. So It's just different events. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, you do not have to be business. You do not have to be in engineering. This is open to all students from all different faculties. So social work and psychology, and arts students. We would love to have you come and participate in these events. So yeah, okay, here we go. And then that's me and Hannah. So if you see either of us in the hallway, please stop us and say hi. We would love to hear from you. And if you would like more information, there is our email. You can get a hold of us. But we are actually not located within FGSR. So I don't want to confuse you all too much, but the Faculty of Grad Studies is kind of near the gym. And then my office is just outside these doors and on the 5th floor of the elevator in the education building. But I feel like a lot of you, I'm getting odd looks. So I feel like if you need any information, just send us an email and we can help meet with you, or we can come find a spot that makes sense to come and say hi and explain what we do and make sure you get involved. But also, big piece of like my learning of being here for the past year and a half. I'm in the same boat as you guys. I'm always like, what's happening? I don't know what I'm doing. The Grad Digest truly houses all information that you're going to need. I know that we get 1,000,001 emails as staff members. We also get those emails. But the Grad Digest, like, sucks everything together and it's all in one spot for you. So please make sure you read the Grad Digest, because that's going to be kind of one of your main sources of like being successful. So anyways, okay, I think that's everything. Here we go.
Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for the plug on the Grad Digest again. So if you're thinking about let's start a boot camp and any of that information that's in the Grad Digest, the January 5th today at noon info session is in the Grad Digest. It's also on the events page. So if you're thinking about that. So we're at the end of the orientation part. Does anybody have any questions? Information overload, right? You all have that look on your faces like, oh my God. I was just going, yes. Okay, 227. 227. Yeah. So if you're at the gym, doors facing the gym, just turn like this, and there we are. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah, right. Yes, the fitness center. Okay. I know, but everyone thinks. All right.
So,
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. There was a QR code for the Grad Digest. There wasn't one, but if you are, yeah, it comes to the emails, but if it's also on this page, you can get to it from this page. Whoops. Whoa, look at that. I didn't know you could do that. Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness. Totally a Monday. All right. Yeah. So that's kind of the main hub, and it takes you to all the other pages that you might need. Any other questions? Wednesday. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. And Wednesday. Right.
so before we turn it over to Chris, there is next step. With nachos, but also we help you not just actually, we help you grow and grow. So if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Thank you.
State versus tonight's way to
Yes, indeed. I think we'll take a break before we begin. It's just been pounded with an hour and 15 minutes of information. So let's take about 5 or 10 minutes and come back, and we'll continue with the academic category session for those of you staying.
Okay, before you leave, washrooms. So the women's washroom is pretty much straight out past the pit down a hallway right there. And the men's washroom is to the left down the other hallway. All right. So if anyone needs a washroom, go do that now and then come back because Chris doesn't want to see you in his office for a misconduct. Right?
Where's the sign?
There's no lunch.
What do you need?
Oh, there it is. Actually,
No, what? Chris, I'm just gonna hang this up.
Can you hear me online now? Thank you. Yeah, apologies. I was muted the whole time, didn't know it. Thanks. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is just move to the next section. When you use others' work in your own, I want you to ask yourself these three questions, keeping in mind that to do our work with academic integrity means to do it in an accurate and honest way and in a respectful way. So you first want to ask, is it clear to the reader to whom these ideas or words belong? Okay. We also want to ask, am I being respectful to those toward whom those ideas or words originate? Okay. And finally, am I honestly and accurately representing what I'm presently capable of? On the understanding that you're here to learn and you're going to improve. Your skills are going to get better. Your writing is going to get better. You're going to be improving all the time. And to do so, you're going to need good feedback to help you get better. Okay. But you need, in order to make that feedback useful, you need to show your professors where you are now in your academic journey. Okay, so that they can give you feedback that will help you get to the next step. I sometimes hear from students that run afoul of the rules of academic integrity that they didn't mean to do something wrong, right? And I get that, right? As I said at the beginning of this, right? There's blatant outright exam cheating, which everybody knows is wrong. And then there's things like not citing your sources properly, which kind of fall into a little bit more of a gray zone, right? But at the end of the day, if you submit work that doesn't accurately and honestly reflect what you can do, you're likely to get a grade that you don't deserve. Okay, so it's not about the intention behind what you do. It's about the outcome. What are you handing in for evaluation? Is it an accurate and honest representation of what you're capable of doing? Okay? Does it show where you really are at now in your academic journey? Okay, and even if you didn't mean to run afoul of the rules, if you submit a paper, let's say that's completely generated by AI and slap your name on it and hand it in and get a 95, you don't deserve that 95, right? And I think you know that. Everyone knows that. Okay, so why do we care about it though? What's the big deal about academic integrity? Well, here's where it can go really wrong. Here is a former president of a major university, Harvard University, who ended up having to resign her presidency amid allegations of plagiarism. I think just a terrible outcome. So you don't want that to be you, right? Maybe one day you'll be the president of Harvard and you don't want somebody going back and looking at your thesis from 2027, 28 and saying, oh, that I found plagiarism in that thesis. Like, you're going to have to resign your position now, right? So you never know where you're going to end up. I'm sure she didn't think about that at the time that she wrote her thesis. So we're going to talk about her more in a little bit, but in the corporate world, we have a pretty good system for giving credit to people for their ideas, right? If you come up with a really great idea, a really great piece of technology, or a really great innovation, you're going to get paid for it. You're going to patent that, and you're going to get it to the market, and you're going to be recognized as having that great idea by making money. Okay, we don't do that in academia, right? In academia, instead, in order to give credit, we use a system of acknowledgement as in lieu of payment. Right. So just imagine if every time you wanted to make use of somebody else's work in your own, that you had to go and hand them money, right? You want to use a paper that somebody else wrote, you have to, here's $20 so I can use your paper, right? We don't do that. But what we do is we acknowledge that the information that I got or the ideas that I got came from this source. It came from this book or came from this paper or came from this online resource or whatever. Okay. So we always want to make sure that we're giving credit to wherever the information that we're using, that we're borrowing, has come from, whether that's the words of that source or just the ideas that are contained within it. Why does that matter? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, but again, it goes back to that fundamental core value of respect, right? If we're being respectful of the people who had the ideas in the first place, or who gave us the words that we're now going to use in our paper, the way that we show respect is by acknowledging them. Right? By giving them credit for their work. But giving credit also allows those people to build a reputation for excellence, right? They're trying to show that they're experts in this field. And one day you'll be doing the same, right? You'll be, when you're out in the world, if you're a researcher or if you're writing policy papers or you're doing something, anything else that contributes to the development of your profession, if you do something really good, you're going to want to be recognized for that. That's going to help you to gain opportunities. It's going to help you to access better opportunities, better pay, right? Helps you, in short, build a reputation for yourself as an expert. Okay, so the only way we can do that is if we give credit to people and expect that we'll be given credit for our ideas and contributions in the future. So when I talk to students, a lot of times they get really hung up on the details, right? They're like, oh, you know, I just don't get APA 7. I never know where to put the brackets or where to put the italics or whatever else. And that's not going to get you into trouble, okay? There's, you know, we have tools that can do that for us, that can format the citation in the right way or the reference in the reference list in the right way. I don't want you to get hung up on that. Different disciplines do it in different ways. And even from one professor to the next, they sometimes have different preferences about what style you should use. The important thing is that you're trying to give credit, that you're trying to acknowledge your sources. You don't want to just say like, well, I didn't know how to do it, so I didn't do it, right? You need to try. You need to do your best to appropriately acknowledge the sources that you've built your work upon. Okay, and there's some more kind of philosophical reasons as well, right? That if our work isn't a honest reflection of what we're capable of, right? If it's not a reflection of our own ideas and our own ability, it's kind of worthless, right? Like it doesn't actually, the degree that we get as well at the end is meaningless if you haven't actually mastered all that material. The degree that we get signifies to the world that we have those skills, right? So when you go out in the world and you've got a master's degree from the University of Regina, we want that to tell employers right off the bat, that's a good bet. That is somebody you want to hire. They have a ton of skills. They have great experience. And we know what their education was like. Okay. And that can only be true if you do your work in an honest way, right? We don't let people graduating from our program who don't actually have the skills and knowledge because they didn't do the work. And then they go into the workforce and their employer says, this person is terrible. I thought they had a master's degree, but they don't know anything at all. And now I actually don't, you know, I don't think I'm going to hire another one of these graduates from this program or even from this university, right? So in order to make sure that your degree has value and to make sure that the degree has value for the 90,000 people who already hold credentials from this institution, and for all the people who will in the future, we have to maintain integrity in our work. Okay? I know that's really philosophical and up there, but it's really important, right? That this degree means something, that it signals to the world quality. Okay? If we misrepresent our skills and abilities, right? If we take shortcuts and we do things that are not done in an appropriate way, and what we're presenting is not an accurate, honest reflection of what we're presently capable of, we actually don't develop those skills, right? Like things like writing take practice. You get better at it by doing it again and again and again and getting feedback. Okay. Even things like solving equations. If you're good at it, you got good at it because you did 1,000 of them, right? You did a ton of practice to do that. If you're a good programmer, it's because you practiced and practiced and practiced that skill. Okay. And if we don't do that, if we ask ChatGPT to write that program for us, write the code for us, and hand that in as assignment 3 in our computer science class, right? You're not practicing. You're not developing that skill. You're not, and then think about the feedback that you get too. Okay, because if the feedback that you get on something that you just, you know, that somebody else did, that you're handing in as your own, or that AI wrote for you that you're handing in as your own, right? If your instructor comes back and says, I actually think this isn't a very strong argument and this isn't very well supported, you're going to look at it and be like, well, I don't know. It's not mine, but you know, that feedback isn't relevant to me because I didn't write this. Okay. So in order to be able to do better in the future, to be able to go forward and build and get better and better as an academic and as a professional in your area, you need to get feedback that's going to help you get there, right? And that feedback can only be useful if it's on work that you actually did yourself. And finally, it's kind of slippery slope, right? Like if you have to kind of, you know, take shortcuts here and use AI to get through your assignments, well, you're probably going to end up doing that at work as well. And there may be times when, you know, your instructor or your employer in the future, you know, looks at the work and says, well, this isn't very good, right? And you want to be sure that you would know what good work looks like. right? Then you haven't just sort of robbed yourself of the chance to learn how to do good work on your own without being dependent on these tools to do the work for you. Okay, so if you would take these shortcuts in grad school and don't learn good habits here, there's no real reason why you wouldn't just keep doing that, and eventually it's going to catch up with you like Claudine Gay. Okay. So if that doesn't convince you, the penalties for not following the rules can be quite severe at the University of Regina. Okay, even on a first offense, depending on what you did. So let's say that you break into a professor's office, break into the computer, steal their exam, and then sell it to other students on the internet. You get expelled for that. And it doesn't have to be your second time doing it, right? You do that once, you're gone. Okay, so generally speaking, that's not what's going to happen on a first offense, but it could, right? And you'll end up with a grade of XF on your transcript and a notation saying you got kicked out. And that's not great when you go to apply to like medical school or something, right? In the future, and you decide, maybe I want to be a physician, and they see, XF, what does that mean? Oh, that means, academic misconduct and required to discontinue for academic misconduct or expelled from the University of Regina. It doesn't look good on a transcript, right? So a grade of 0 is a similar thing, right? The only way you can get a grade of 0 here is through misconduct, okay? Because if you don't hand anything in, you get an NP instead, which just tells people you didn't do the work. If you get a grade of 0, that tells everyone that you were caught engaging in misconduct and assigned a grade of 0 for the entire course, okay? Graduate students who get these grades can get kicked out. Okay, so let's not have this be the end of your, don't make me kick you out, please. Just do your work with integrity. Don't use ChatGPT. Okay, so how do you avoid plagiarism? Well, we have a couple tools in our arsenal, right? Before we get to those, I want to talk about what in detail, what I mean by plagiarism. It's taking someone else's ideas without giving them credit, or taking someone else's words without giving them credit and acknowledging that the words aren't yours. Okay, people, I think, sometimes get mixed up between these two things, the ideas and the words. So sometimes people, when I talk to them, they'll say, I thought I only had to provide the citation to the source if I was quoting, if I was taking the exact words from the source. And then if I'm not quoting, I don't have to. No, okay, we're always going to give that acknowledgement to the source, whether we take just the idea or the information and put it into our own words, or take the exact words from the source. Either way, we have to acknowledge what source we got it from. Okay. The difference is that when you're quoting, you also have to show the reader exactly which words are not yours. Okay, because without doing that, the reader will always assume that anything they're reading was written by you. Why wouldn't they? Right? That makes sense. So your professor's reading your assignment, and if they come across something like that sounds really familiar, I think that's in my paper that I wrote. And this has happened, by the way, right? The students sometimes will say, well, I didn't know that I had to show you which words came from the paper. And of course, that's just an excuse, right? That's not following the rules. Okay. Anytime you're taking credit or implying by omission that you wrote something or that an idea is yours, that's plagiarism. Okay, if it wasn't actually written by you. We have so many tools at our disposal now to help us with our work, and some of these are great, and when used responsibly can be real time savers and really helpful. If I have to read one more ChatGPT written email in my life, though, I might actually quit my job. However, it's not for academic work. Okay, there are not many cases where you will be allowed to use ChatGPT to do your work for you. Okay, and I think that makes a lot of sense, right? If I am asked to write a paper, it's the professor is asking me to show what I know, not what ChatGPT knows or what ChatGPT can do. Okay, so these AI tools, they're really quite tricky. They pose a lot of challenges for us in the academy. And the rule that we have here at the University of Regina is that an AI tool is off limits until you're told otherwise. Okay, so if you come into a class and you think like, here's a task that I think would be really great to do using ChatGPT or another AI tool that you have access to, right? The first thing you have to do is look in the syllabus and see what the instructor's AI policy is. Because the instructor will have learning objectives in mind when they create an assignment, right? They have goals for what they want you to learn from the assignment. Okay, and if
what you want to do, the tool you want to use, circumvents or undermines those goals, they probably aren't going to want you to use that, right? So if the goal is to improve your writing, but you use ChatGPT to do the writing for you, that doesn't help meet that learning objective. Okay, so you always have to have that discussion with your instructor if you want to use one of these tools. You want to make sure that it's very clear what you want to use it for, that they know what you want to use it for, and that they've given you permission. In most cases, the answer will probably be no. Okay, but there may be some instances in which it's okay. With all that said, depending what area you're in, you might have an instructor or one class where the instructor is all gung-ho about AI and excited about it and has created assignments with that in mind. And they want you to use AI for that assignment, or at least they are allowing it. Okay, but again, that's going to vary from one instructor to the next. There's some instructors that are really excited about the opportunities AI provides, and they're working that into the curriculum. There's others that want nothing to do with it, right? You can imagine English professors are not excited about AI writing, right? So you just have to keep that in mind, that it's going to differ from one instructor to the next and from one class to the next, okay? It's not just ChatGPT, although it's my favorite boogeyman. There's a million of these tools. Okay, if you're using a tool, a technology to assist you with your writing, get permission to do it before you do, okay? So, as I've already said, you can't assume you're allowed to use it, even if another prof let you use it in a different class, even if the same prof let you use it in a different class they taught. You still can't assume that it's okay in this class, because again, it goes back to those learning objectives, right? What was the purpose of it? Here's an example that I see pretty often. Students are asked to write a summary of an article, right? And they say, well, AI is great at that. I'm going to ask AI to summarize the article, right, in 750 words, and I'll hand that in, and there's my summary. Done, right? So why wouldn't your instructor want you doing that? Well, obviously, you don't even have to read the paper to do that, right? But students will tell me, no, I read the paper. I just, when it came time to summarize it, I used a tool because why wouldn't I? It saves me a lot of time. Right? But the instructor may have a good reason for wanting you to actually write the summary, right? They may want you to practice that skill of writing something concisely. They may want you to critique the paper, right? AI might miss things in it. AI gets stuff wrong all the time, right? It makes factual errors all the time, and it misses things, subtle things that the instructor might want you to pick up on. So just imagine the instructor is assigned a paper, and that paper makes points that completely contradict what she said in her own lecture earlier that day, right? And she's assigning that paper for a reason. She wants you to notice the contradictions and comment on them. And that's the goal of this assignment. And that's why she picked that paper. All of that's going to be missed if AI does it for you, okay? Because they're not going to pick up, it is not going to pick up on those kinds of subtleties, okay? That's your job. And she wants you to take that, and that's the purpose of it, okay? So again, just make sure that you ask. I also would strongly encourage you to use these tools in a way that lets you show what your work would have looked like without them. Okay, so keep an early draft, keep the first couple drafts of your papers, and then if you're allowed to use something like Grammarly to improve the writing, do that at the end. Don't do it all along the way, because then you can't show your process, right? You want to be able to say, here's what this looked like before Grammarly got to it. Here's what it looked like before I used this tool to improve it. Yeah, it's ugly. And I don't want you grading that because it's kind of right? It's better now that the tool has polished it up, and that's what I want you to grade. But look, I did the work originally and I can prove it. Okay, so that if that's ever challenged, you'll be able to show that. I really like this quote from one of our history professors. She writes, using AI to write your assignments is like watching people work out at the gym. You can tell everyone that you spent 3 hours at the gym, but did you really? Right? So just really think about what you're getting when you offload the work to some kind of AI tool or whatever it is. Okay, bottom line, if you're allowed to use AI, and that's a big if, literally a big if on my screen, make sure you understand what you are actually allowed to use AI for. Again, I will have profs that will say, you can use AI to brainstorm ideas for this assignment. And then the student uses it to write the entire paper. And then they come to me and I say, what happened? And they say, the prof said I could use AI. They said you could use AI to get ideas. They definitely didn't say you could use AI to write the entire paper and call it your own. Okay. So you want to write a transparency statement and include that in your work that explains how you use the tool and what tool you used. Okay. If you're thesis-based student, you'll have to do this for your thesis as part of the process. But I would encourage you to do it for your assignments, even if the instructors don't ask for it. Okay, if you are allowed to use a tool, here's an example of transparency statement. I would just literally write transparency statement, : I use Grammarly to improve the grammar and check for errors. I use ChatGPT to create an outline for the paper. If you're allowed to do that, if, because maybe the instructor's learning objective was to have you do that yourself. Okay, but if you're allowed to do that, if that's allowed and you've already had the discussion, write it down. Okay? I also use ChatGPT to translate some sections that I wrote into different language. Again, only if you're allowed to do that. If you are, tell us about it, right? Again, this just goes back to doing things in an honest and accurate way. You're trying to show the instructor so that they can understand, here's what I have done and what I want to take credit for, and here's what the tool helped me with. Okay, so that we can have some understanding of your process, just in case things go wrong later. Okay, let's move on from the tools. So I want to talk about kind of old-fashioned plagiarism, because this is where I find students often will get themselves in trouble just because they're confused, not because they're trying to get one over on the problem. Okay, we have 3 things that will kind of help us with this, and I'm going to talk about each of them in turn: citing, quoting, and paraphrasing. And probably of these 3, citing is the most important. We have to be sure to give credit to others for their words and for their ideas, both. Even if you only take the idea from the paper and write it out in your own words, you still have to give credit for it. How we give that credit is by citing the source. We include an in-text citation. We're going to go through an exercise where I do just that in a moment. But again, I really want to stress, whether we're taking the ideas only or the exact words, we need a citation either way. We need to cite a source either way. Okay. Sometimes I'll get the question, how do I know when I have to cite? Right? Isn't some stuff just obvious? Right? And there's some truth to that. Okay. But when it comes to things that are self-evident or that are your own opinion, you do not need a citation for those. So you have to ask yourself, imagine you're the reader of the paper and you're reading along and you read a factual statement, right? And the factual statement says something like, a lot of students are using AI to write their assignments for them. The first thing as a critical reader that you should be asking yourself is, where'd you get that from? How do you know that's true? Okay. And so you need to be able to provide a source for any factual statement that you made. If you want to say that, that the rate of taxation for people making this amount of money in Canada is this rate, provide a source for that. That's a factual statement. Some experts think that, blah, blah, blah. Cite those experts. That's an expert opinion. Give credit to those experts for their opinion. Tell us where it came from. If you want to say, I believe that, you don't need a source for that. Okay? But if you say, I believe that, blank, 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 because of this piece of information or this evidence, then you have to cite the source of that evidence. Okay, so I just always want you thinking about yourself as the reader going along. If any part of your paper makes you go, wait, how do you know that? Then you need a citation. Okay, if you say something like, a lot of students are using AI tools to complete their work, that's probably not going to be challenged, or to assist them with their work. Let's not say complete, it makes sounding a student for you, to assist them with their work, right? Well, we know that that's true, right? Those tools are used widely. That's why they're available. A lot of students use Grammarly to improve their writing, right? I don't need a citation for that, and I probably won't find one anyway, okay? Because it's a self-evident fact. No one is going to challenge me on that, right? A lot of people don't like getting up early on Mondays. Don't need a citation for that, okay? Because it's self-evident. All right, so when we take others' words, we have to quote those words. When we take others' ideas, we do that by paraphrasing them, which means putting them into our own words. And as I said before, and we'll say it just one more time, regardless of whether we're quoting or paraphrasing, we have to provide a citation to its source. Okay, we're always going to cite the source of the information or the words either way. There's 4 things to remember when quoting. Okay, the first is that we want to put those quoted words in quotation marks. Okay, the way I think about it is when I'm reading along, I'm saying, okay, everything that I am reading is written by the author up to here. Then the open quote comes, and I know that until I see a close quote, every word between those two quotation marks is somebody else's. And then you need to tell me whose. Okay, so you want to follow that quotation with an in-text citation to the source of the quotation. You want to show me exactly where you got it from. And I want you to show me the page number as well. Okay, so when you're quoting, you also have to include the page number on which the quotation can be found. Why? Why do you have to do that? The reason you have to do that is the reader has to be given the opportunity to see the quotation, the quoted words, in their original context, to make sure, if they want to, if they have a question about whether you quoted that person out of context, right? If you took their words but used them for a purpose that they wouldn't themselves agree with, right? So let's say that I wrote something and it said, you know, Donald Trump is an amazing president, and you quoted me with those words and put that in your paper and said, Laureate 2026 said this, right? And I would say if you went back to the paper, it probably says something like, a lot of people think that Donald Trump is an amazing president, but he is an idiot, okay? But you're only taking part of what I said, and you've taken it out of context, okay? The reader should have the opportunity to go back and find the original quotation and see if that's what's happened, okay? So, or just to understand the context in which the original quotation was made. Okay, so we add the page number for that reason. And finally, you're going to list the source in your reference list. Okay, so whatever source that quotation comes from eventually needs to appear in your reference list. So let's do an example. And in this exercise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to quote from a source using these 4 steps. Here's the source. This was written by a guy named Gord Pennycook and one of his colleagues. And Gord was a business prof here, but he got poached by Cornell University. But he's one of my colleagues in psychology, which is my area. And here he's written a really nice paper about the psychology of fake news. Okay, and so this is just an excerpt from that paper. It's just one paragraph from that paper. Okay, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to show you that this is my source material that I'm working from. Okay, so I want to quote from this. There's a part of this that I really like, and I want to use it in my own work. So here's what I've done. I've written my own paragraph, and I've incorporated a quotation from that passage. Okay, so what I wrote, recently researchers have called into question whether fact-checking questionable information posted on social media platforms is a feasible strategy for mitigating the spread of misinformation. For example, Pennycook and Rand 2021 argued that, bang, right? You see the quotation marks, you know that what comes next are not my words. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've enclosed Pennycook and Rand's words in quotation marks. So the reader knows everything between these 2 quotation marks is not my words. They belong to Pennycook and Rand. Okay. How do you know Pennycook and Rand? Because I've added an in-text citation at the end of it. Okay, so as soon as the quote finishes, I've told you where I got it from. I got it from Pennycook and Rand's 2021 article, right? Their article published in 2021, and that exact quote can be found on page 396. So that if you think that I've taken it out of context, if you dispute how I've used that quote, you can go look for yourself and see if I've done it accurately, okay, if I've been respectful to that. And finally, in my reference list, I'm going to add the full bibliographic reference to that source, right? I'm going to tell you where you can find that particular information, that passage. Get out here. I've learned 12:30, so. Okay, so let's do a quick check on what I've done here. Remember I said before we have to ask ourselves 3 things whenever we're giving acknowledgement to others for the use of their work. Is it clear to whom these ideas or words belong? What do you think? Just a hands up if you think I did that well. Only one person. Thank you very much. Everybody else, I'll try to do better. I think I did good. I think I'm clearly signaling that these ideas are Pennycook and Rand's and that they're not my own ideas. Okay. And the reason why I think that is because I have put that into quotation marks so that everybody can see where my words end and their words begin. Okay. Am I being respectful towards them? Show of hands. Am I? Yes, yes. Oh, a few more now. Thank you. Okay, good. I think I am, because I provided a citation to their work and I'm not claiming that those words are my own. In fact, I'm going to some trouble to make sure that you don't think that they are. Okay. Am I honestly and accurately representing what I know and what I'm presently capable of? What do you think? Yes? Hands up? A few people think I am. Most of you think that I'm misrepresenting. That's okay. And I think I am, okay? Because I've made it clear that the words that are not in quotation marks are what I am taking credit for, and everything in quotation marks I'm not taking credit for, okay? So that's for quoting. That's if I'm taking the exact words out of the source. What if I'm just paraphrasing? What if I'm just taking an idea or a piece of information or an opinion that some other researcher had, and I'm using that in my paper? That when I am paraphrasing, what I'm doing is I'm writing about others' ideas, but using my own words to do so. So I want to talk a little bit about what paraphrasing is not. I'm doing good. Are you coming to kick me out? Okay. I'm much more than that. Okay. So here's what paraphrasing is not. Paraphrasing is not copying and pasting and then changing a few words from the original source. It's not copying and pasting several parts of different papers together and changing a few words. Okay. It's not rewriting others' ideas one sentence at a time. It's not rewriting the output of a Gen AI tool. It's not just taking what ChatGPT spit out and then rewriting that one sentence at a time. Okay. And it's not a way of getting around acknowledging the use of others' work. Sorry, you have a question? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, so I think sometimes students get a little bit confused about this, right? In particular, the rewriting others' ideas one sentence at a time. What's wrong with that if it's using your own words? I really want you to think about the intention of a writing assignment. You're trying to convince your instructor that you have a good understanding of this topic, that you've mastered it, that you have a good grasp of the information, and that you can talk about this with knowledgeably and with ease. What's going to convince your instructor that you can do that, right? So if you're doing any of these things on this slide, you're probably not very convincing to your instructor, right? That's probably not going to convince them that you actually know the information. Because anybody can do this as long as they have a grasp of the English language. You don't actually have to know the material to do any of these things, right? When I want to go back to Claudine Gay now, the former president of Harvard, right? When she was accused of plagiarism in her dissertation, it wasn't that anybody thought she did anything like, stole the idea from someone else. It was little things, right? Inadequate citation, not failing to cite her sources, okay? And using the language of other scholars, but then making small changes to just change the words around a little bit. Okay, so that got her removed from the presidency at Harvard, right? For what may not seem like a huge deal. So we want to make sure that we're doing things right. And I just want to show why. I think we've talked a little before in the last session about Control-C, Control-V, right? Copy and paste. If any part of your writing process involves copying and pasting from another source, you're doing it wrong. Okay, that's not what we do to start paraphrasing. Okay, so if your mechanism or your approach to paraphrasing is to take the original source, copy it, paste it into your own paper, and then start to work on it, you're not doing it right. Okay, because again, that doesn't necessarily show that you understand what it is that you copied and pasted. So no part of your writing process should involve copying and pasting, either from the source material or from an AI application. Okay, and here's why. I'm going to show you why. Here's something that I wrote and handed in to a geology prof, a real geology prof here at the university. Okay, and it looks pretty good. I thought it looked pretty good. I thought it sounded great. And when I got the feedback from her, she said, "You have very good understanding of the subject and covered all negative implications of river damming. The wording flows to the reader. Well done. I would give you 88 to 90% on this." That's fantastic. But I'm from psychology. I know nothing at all. Like literally nothing. Okay, so how am I getting an 88 or 9 on something? Well, here's how. This is actually a passage named from her paper. That's why she liked it so. And all I've done is I've just substituted out some of the words here and there. Okay? So I was able to produce something new and hand it in it. And yet it's not me at all, right? I'm just all I've done is that I know synonyms for words like the tropics. The tropical rivers, I substitute the tropics. And water quality degradation, I would go with degradation of water quality. I see right? My daughter's 13. We can read this. It is a I think this leads to no sin, or you can look them up online. So if you want to convince the instructor, you can gotta think about it, process it, and then produce something deep that shows what you're saying. I think that's what paraphrase. Don't do this bad. This is all this will get good. But Christine. So what should you be doing instead? What I want to do is to read it by paragraph, sentence by sentence. Okay, so when you're reading the source material, read a full paragraph, maybe even see. Don't stop and think about it. And at that point, document it's your own words, not copies of what might be paragraphs. Okay. Don't forget to put down where you got what source you're with. It's something so you just get lost in the content, right? You forget to write down the title of the source. And bullets at the stage. Right? This can help you do something big, but not get high specific and right wrong. Okay. Once you make all of the bullet points, now it's time to do the outside. Put the paper out of the right about it. Right over the exposed. That's what you've got. So you want to write your own sentence from the bullets in your own voice. Words you borrow everyday language, right? A lot of times down students and I'll go through the paper with them and say, what? Say, I don't know what that means. Right? Just that's right. Grab the book and write it. Don't do that. This will go to you. It may not be perfect, but it's yours. It's in your voice. Okay? It's a lot of big words that you don't understand. You're not doing anything. Okay? Your instructor will be looking at what the bottom. Now,
Sorry, folks, it fell. I didn't realize that. 1 second here. Sorry about that, folks online, if you couldn't hear me. My mic fell, I didn't even notice. Okay. And you want to cite the sources of those ideas. Okay, so even if you aren't quoting, you still have to tell us where you got the information or ideas from. Then you want to go back and compare what you wrote to the original source that you started with, just to make sure that you've got it right. Okay, check for accuracy, that's it. Don't go back and start rewriting things because you like the way they said it better than the way you said it, right? Just leave what you've got unless it's wrong, and then make changes as needed. Okay, so again, we're going to work with that same passage that I had previously. I'm just going to go through that process with you step by step. So here are the notes that I made after reading that. I read that whole thing, and these are the thoughts that what I thought were the kind of major points of this. Okay. The first is that there's problems with fact checking. You can't do it for every post, every social media post. It takes time. And by the time you get to the fact checking, the misinformation is probably already spread. Okay. You might catch stuff that's just flat out false, but you're going to miss the more misleading information through this approach. And you need to worry about what people are going to think about information that's not flagged as possibly false. Okay? Don't worry if you're not following any of this. It doesn't matter about the content. These are the points that I took from the paper, and that's my point to you. Right? I want you to see that these are the three main ideas I got from that passage that I just had on the screen previously. Okay, so what am I going to do with this? I've got these 3 bullet points. I'm going to use them to write something new. Okay, because I want to capture these ideas in a piece of writing of my own. Okay, that originates with me. So here's what I wrote. Pennycook and Rand, 2021, have pointed out that rolling out fact checking on the kind of scale required to mitigate the sharing of misinformation on social media may simply not be feasible. Bit of a long sentence. First, as these authors note, the number of fact checkers required would be staggering, and even if there were enough people to do it, they probably couldn't do it quickly enough to prevent this information from spreading widely, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's not as good as what they had. They write better than me. Okay, that's their area. But this is mine, right? Whether you like it or not, or don't like it, it's mine. This is how I write. These are words I actually use. I know every word.
in this passage. I know exactly what it means, and I get the idea. This is what I understood from the paper. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I understood from the paper. Okay, so that's what I'm presenting to my instructor now for evaluation. I really want to just show you a trick that I used here. I made extensive use of signal words. And the reason I did that is because I really want to make it clear to the reader what ideas should be attributed to somebody else. Okay, so I said Pennycook and Rand have pointed out that blah, 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 blah. Not my idea, Pennycook and Rand's, right? As these authors note, still Pennycook and Rand. Right? Second, Pennycook and Rand emphasize that, dot, 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 dot. Finally, the authors argue that, dot, 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 dot. Okay, again, the idea is that your reader has no doubt about which ideas are yours and which should be attributed to somewhere else. Okay, here with the use of these signal words, it doesn't even matter that I haven't always carried the citation through. You know I'm still talking about Pennycook and Rand, and these ideas come from their paper because I'm telling you that in my words. Okay, so I'm going to check on my work. I actually want to show a couple other things here. Sorry, my animation failed me. You'll notice here that I've also included the citation. Okay, and I also will list this in my reference list at the end, just as before. Okay, so it's not really any different from what we did with the quoting. The only difference is I don't need to include the page number. Okay, so was it clear in what I wrote who should get credit for the ideas or the words? What do you think? You're saying yes? Hands up if you think yes. I got a few more fans now. Good, okay. I think my use of signal words was quite effective in that regard, right? I'm indicating to the reader over and over again, not my ideas, not my ideas. Sorry, did you have a question? Oh, thank you. And I'm being respectful toward those from whom the ideas or words originate. I think I am. Okay, thank you. I have provided a citation to their work, Pennycook and Rand 2021, so that you know that, right? And so I'm not claiming those ideas as my own. And am I honestly and accurately representing what I'm presently capable of? You're nodding yes? You know the game by now, right? Yes, of course I am, okay? And why though? Well, because I'm using my own voice. I told you the part that I wrote, I had that run-on sentence, not very good. I could probably work on it a little bit more, but it's mine, right? And if it's wrong, it's still mine, right? And if you liked it, that's mine too, okay? I'm showing you what was mine and what was theirs, and you can decide for yourself whether you agree with me or whether you like what I wrote or whatever else, but I'm making it clear what I'm taking credit for and what I'm not taking credit for. Okay, and that's the important point. Okay, I talked a lot about this earlier. I just want to say one more word about not so much AI, but about Grammarly. A lot of students use Grammarly to polish their writing. A lot of professors have no problem with that. A lot of professors do. Okay, so depending on the professor, they may be okay with that, or they may not. Just check. Ask your instructor if you're planning to use Grammarly or anything like that that can polish your writing. Okay. A lot of, like I said before, it's getting complicated now, right? Because Grammarly itself can generate text and you're probably not allowed to do that, but to use the functions that allow you to improve your writing, just make sure that what you're left with after you've allowed Grammarly to do its thing still says what you want to say, still sounds like you. Okay. Be critical in the suggestions that Grammarly provides. When I meet with students who've gotten themselves in trouble with these kinds of tools, a lot of times they'll say, it all sounded better than anything I can write. So I accepted every single tool, every single suggestion. And then what ends up happening, because Grammarly is built on the same large language models that ChatGPT and other AI applications are built on, is that it sounds like AI. And AI detectors will flag it as written by AI, even if it was originally written by you and then just polished. Okay, if you use Grammarly too much, your work is probably going to get flagged as AI written. If you use Quillbot's the worst of them. Any of these tools that purport to restructure your writing, or to if you apply a style, right? If you apply the argumentative style or the scholarly style, if you're paying for the better version of Grammarly to let you do these things, don't do these things. Okay, because what it'll end up doing is making you sound like a robot. You will sound like AI. Your work will get flagged as AI, and then we sit down together and we have to sort out this kind of mess. Okay, so just be sure that when you hand in your paper, it says what you want to say, and that there's nothing in there that you couldn't speak to yourself. Right? If somebody asked you about what does this word mean, why did you say this, you've got an answer for that because you chose that word, you chose that expression. All right, Deco does get close. My summary, academic integrity, I hope I've convinced you is important in order to preserve the value of the credentials from our university. Everyone has a role in ensuring the academic that we do our work with integrity. That's me as an associate dean, you as a student, your instructor as a professor. Academic integrity is about honesty and respect. If you should use other people's work, right? We build our scholarship on other people's scholarship. We want to make use of others' academic work in our own. And that's a good thing. We should be doing it, but we have to do it appropriately. So we have to give credit to the people who had the ideas for the words that we're using in our own paper. You want to cite your sources, enclose your quotations in quotation marks, and make sure that if you're paraphrasing, that you're doing it from scratch. You're writing from bullet points rather than looking at the source and rewriting the source line by line. Okay. Make sure the reader has no doubt at all about which words and ideas you're taking credit for and which should be attributed to somebody else. If you're going to use writing assistance technology, even Grammarly, make sure you get permission to do so. Just make sure that everyone is on the same page about what you're doing, and that they're clear on that. Remember, copying and pasting at the graduate level especially is not writing. No part of your process should involve copying and pasting either the output of AI or another source. And finally, here's a source that you can use to help you with some of the APA type stuff. And I've had a question in the chat here just before I go to your questions. Is it okay to use Perla? Perla assists with the APA process to make sure the credit is provided correctly. Does that count? I would, again, let your instructor know you want to use Perla, that you're intending to use it and what you're intending to use it for, and then there shouldn't be a difficulty. Because I think with Perla, if I understand correctly, it's to format the citations so that they, or the bibliographic reference, that it conforms to APA standards. And there are other tools that do that as well. But again, just make sure you talk to your instructor and say, I'm going to use this tool. Is that okay? And for this is what I want to use it for, and have that conversation. Okay, I have spoken more than enough. I would like to hear from you. Do you have any questions or comments or anything you want additional clarification on? Did you learn anything? Is this all just old news for you? You're so patient and quiet. I appreciate your attention. Thank you. Anybody? Yes. Great question. I started in this role January of 2022, and I had maybe 2 or 3 cases that semester class of plagiarism. A year later, I think we had 68 in one term. AI is the culprit. So the problem, of course, is that AI can do the work for the students in a way that has never been the case prior. And all of a sudden, profs are reading things that sound like they're written by people who already have their PhDs and wondering how that happened. So student work should sound like student work, even at the master's and the PhD level. And we have an idea of where you should be. And when we get something that departs greatly from that, we ask why. And sometimes it's because of the honest and use of a tool gone rogue, and sometimes it's not. Great question. How do you guys feel about using AI in your work? Excited about it? Avoid it like the plague? I've mentioned a couple of times that your work get flagged as AI written. What I mean by that is that instructors have access to a tool called Turnitin. Not all instructors use it, but the way that tool works is it actually has 2 different functions. And you may be familiar with one of them. The one function it has is to compare the similarity of work you submit for evaluation with works that already exist out in the world. So published papers, websites, other students' papers, anything like that. And it computes a similarity score. And sometimes instructors will let you even see that similarity score when you submit your papers, so that if you need to, you can make adjustments. Right? So that deals with what we would call classic plagiarism, right? The copying and pasting from other sources, not giving credit, all that kind of stuff. There's a second function now of Turnitin, and that's AI detection. And what it will do is it will scan the document and try to compute the likelihood that what portions of the document were generated using an AI tool. Okay, and that's the one that gets people in real trouble. You can't see that score. It's only visible to your professor. So if you've used an AI tool to help you in your work and you think you're using it accurately and honestly, but you haven't had the discussion with them to say, I want to use this tool and it's going to help me improve my writing or whatever else. I think I'm using it ethically and responsibly. And then they get something that sounds like it was written by a person who already has a PhD in that area, and it's better than anything they could have written themselves, right? Then they're going to be suspicious and they're going to be wondering what happened. And they're going to look at the Turnitin report and they're going to see an AI score of 96% and wonder, is this actually generated by AI? And then they're going to refer it to me. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. So the way to avoid that, of course, is to not use any tool at all. But as a compromise, if you were planning to use something like Grammarly, having that discussion with your inspector ahead of time can help prevent any misunderstandings about how you should be using that tool, for what purposes. And then when they see something that's really polished, they could say, well, the student did say they were going to use Grammarly and I did agree to allow that. Okay, so again, it's that transparency. It's that making sure that everybody's on the same page of what they're doing. I still gonna get you to ask questions, but now I'm still talking. Anybody else? We're just kind of done. You've been here well over 2 hours now. All right. Thank you so much for your time and attention and for caring about academic integrity and doing things in a good way. I know I won't see any of you in my office, which is great. But of course, you can reach out to us for anything. If you have questions about academic integrity or anything about grad studies at all, feel free to reach out to myself, Christine, Aziz, or anybody else in FGSR, and we'll help you out. All right. Thanks again. Thank you, online folks. Krista, I'll be in touch. Thanks, Lynn. Hey, pretty good in yourself? Good. Yeah, for sure. That's totally fine. Yeah, I know. It's got that editor thing. I know. It's also complicated now.
Like I mean, sometimes they work in spell check because they're all.
Yeah, like we all did, right? I came in through the 90s. We had spell check, we had grammar check. No.
That